All right, folks, here we go on this Thursday. My goodness, more breaking news? Is that possible? Is it possible that we have more breaking news? It is. I know. Gian says the audio is good. I can't believe it. I can't believe. I can't believe we have more breaking news. But we have more breaking news. And we're the lucky for you, there's Janet Dwyer. Folks, we have developed such a good crowd that enjoys. Now, we do have the death notice for Erica is posted, and I put a link to it on our website, dpetro.com. But poor Erica in Central Falls, and the news coming out of there, of which we have more of it than anyone. I think a lot of you are starting to realize, like, well, wait a minute. The chosen one is basically kicking ass and taking names as far as the local media. Yes, we have a lot more. We're still the only ones that have the interview with the daughter, Kimberly's daughter, who's just so fantastic. And as I explained, we're not saying her name, showing her photo, but I don't think we need to. As a matter of fact, I know we don't need to. But we do have the death notice up for just terrible for poor Erica. There's Bill. Yes. There's Janet Dwyer. Yep. There's Jane. Now, for subscribers, by the way, yes, thank you, Kara. For subscribers, I haven't even checked. We're gonna start to have callers, so to speak. Kind of, you know, you're doing a talk radio show, and they say, let's go to the line, and then you have the caller there. We are going to start to do that with the subscribers, though. With the subscribers, I did post that we're going to start doing that, and then I've had such a busy morning that I am unaware if anyone has raised their hand and said they're interested in that. But so we are going to start to do it, and not like all the time, but what we'll start to do is, maybe couple an hour, 5 minutes. Probably just, I thought I posted it. Now I'm on the subscriber page and I don't see it. There's Nancy. Oh, okay. I did do it. No one put a comment. All right. Well, anyhow, it'll take a little while for people to get it, but you get the notion of it. And it'll probably just be audio. I mean, we could do video. But I don't know what that person's talking about. Whatever. We're not going to get. I don't know. I don't know why you had a gun. I don't know. So, all right, we're going to start in just 1 minute, but we have another. Is this possible? What? Another Woonsocket homicide? Another Woonsocket homicide. Yep. It would seem to be. There's Bruce. Yes. I did share it, though. Let me just double check. We're going to start, folks, again on this Thursday. And I also want to just clarify. I know we have a lot of new people that are watching and following and just actually discovering. It's also kind of funny. I realize now also, there's nothing to watch on television. There's nothing outside of my own stuff. I sometimes try to look or have some time off. Like, all right, maybe I'll catch up on what there's. I can't believe how little. There's nothing to watch. What's funny is Saturday night. I think it was Saturday night. When I was coming back after Road Patrol Live, I went past the showcase. It was a Saturday night, whatever time it was, 9:30, whatever. Dead. Parking lot dead. I remember Again, good afternoon, everybody. We're live on AM 1380, 99.9 FM. Now, right now, this hour, we're live on Facebook, on our Facebook page, YouTube, and X. And I'll get through all the people that make it possible. But anyhow, I forget what, it was like a couple weeks ago. I thought, it's supposed to rain. Maybe I'll catch like a late afternoon movie, during the week. I used to go to, see whatever, like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, something like that. The place is dead, which I love. Um, there's no one in there. There's no one coughing next to you. That's a whole, but anyhow, there was nothing to see. I didn't know any of the films. I used to go to the movies all the time. I mean, I used to see, when I lived in New York, I would see four films a week. I've taken film classes, the whole thing. I mean, there was nothing to watch, nothing. So, but anyhow, we will begin. I do have the breaking news, but I want to remind you folks about the Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue, West Warwick. Hold on, let me pull up their little. It's just terrific. They're all unveiling. I got to talk to Jim, but they are unveiling. It's now be the coffee. I'm meeting with various sources, gather the information, and it's really been nonstop. It's amazing this week. I can't believe it's Thursday, but the Coesit Inn, folks, 226 Coesit Avenue, West Warwick. Remember what I like to say: lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge. They're waiting for you at the Coesit Inn, and they also have now coffee at Coesit. Coffee at Coesit. I'll be talking more about that. I'm going to talk to the owner, and also let me do one more before I get to our breaking news. Boy, Woonsocket is just the center of the universe this week. It's not your imagination. And what's also interesting to me is I started hearing about this just yesterday, I think. But I've been so in overdrive about our other Woonsocket, the triple, and the gunman, and we're trying to learn more about it. And then obviously also the Central Falls story. So, but folks, don't forget, for all your heating and cooling, Propane Plus online at propaneplus.com, residential or commercial, you can depend on Propane Plus. They're available 24/7 online at propaneplus.com, serving Rhode Island and Massachusetts. Heating or cooling, residential or commercial, is Propane Plus. All right, let's get to the breaking news. Now, we'll have a report on this on there's Bendy on DePietro.com coming up after 2 o'clock. But here it is. So a sudden death investigation is going on with Woonsocket police on November 3rd. So today is the 6th. Boy, this is a rough week in Woonsocket. So, wow. This also happened on Monday, on November 3rd, Monday. 6:37 in the morning, when Woonsocket police responded to the 200 block of Pond Street, the report of an unresponsive male, later identified as Ryan Goulet, 49 years old, trauma to his head area, transported by rescue to Landmark Medical Center, then to Rhode Island Hospital for treatment. Detectives responded to the scene to investigate, secure witness statements, video surveillance. So that was on Monday. On the 4th, the Tuesday, Ryan Goulet succumbed to the injuries he sustained. Preliminary investigation indicates he suffered his injuries. All right, this is interesting. From an accidental fall. We're waiting for the medical examiner official cause of death. The investigation is ongoing. So now I want to just jump in on this, and I'll tell you how I knew about it. Today's Thursday. Because the last really kicked in yesterday of people, I want to push back against some of these individuals. They were saying, no, there's 4 murders and a group of kids beat this guy to death and the police don't do anything. I want to push back on that. And not just because, as many of you know that watch Road Patrol Live, I've ridden with the Woonsocket police. I've worked with them. I think they run a great force. Chief Oates, the commander, Deputy Chief Remick, they have their hands full this week. That's that triple, and that's what they call it, by the way. I'm not trying to be insensitive, But the triple homicide, that is a very difficult case to have to sort through. But this somehow this notion, Deputy Chief Adam Remick. I want to push back on this notion that this I don't know what happened with this individual. Let's wait and see what the cause of death is. That many times with these situations, I just want to caution people. I want to be very clear. I don't know what happened. And the Woonsocket police are saying it's a sudden death investigation. But there are some people that in certain situations, and especially when it comes to the unhoused or the homeless, whatever you want to refer to them at. I don't want to get in the weeds on some of this stuff. But my point is, sometimes there are people that yell fire in a crowded theater, so to speak, and they start saying and making accusations even though it proves not to be true. What do I mean? It's, to me, a lot of the homeless advocates will say, there's all these people freezing to death outside in Rhode Island. And that's not true. That's not true. Last year, there was no one that froze to death outside. There were people that were homeless that died outside, but it's not because they froze to death. So there are some advocates, there are some people with an agenda, and when something like this happens, they just start screaming up and down. Now, there are people, I don't know what happened. The police have witness statements, they have video surveillance. Let's wait and see how this plays out. I know there are people, because several of you have contacted me, claiming that this Ryan Goulet was beaten to death by a group of kids. Maybe that is the case. Maybe their investigation will show that. But I would just say, and again, I get it, free country, you're entitled to your opinion and blah, blah, blah. But why don't we wait and just see what their investigation shows? So, because we don't know exactly what the cause was. Now, for whatever reason, when the police are saying he suffered his injuries from an accidental fall, did he fall because he was struck and then tragically, lost his life that way? It's possible. But I I think some people, my opinion, they're very quick. This notion of, that the police aren't doing it. Police do nothing. Much like we heard with poor Erica. I called 40 times. They had to block my number. Not one person went and filed a missing persons report on Erica in Central Falls. So, and I want to touch on that a little bit, but I'm not waiting for nothing when I've been done there actually speaking to the victims of that night. I don't know what that means. If there's someone that could translate that, we will find out. Now, I'll say this. If you have information, I'll tell you one of the things I know what happened. If that happened, and again, I have no idea what this person is talking about. If that is the case, whoever this individual is, and we're not going to, delete or block or anything like that. But if that is the case, then you contact. Listen, they have with what I'll tell you a problem that comes into play. I already know what comes into play. So we're waiting for the medical examiner. The investigation is ongoing. Listen, you become an adult. You do the adult responsible thing. You contact the police. Better yet, you go to the police station. You go to the police station and you tell them what you know. I strongly advise people to do that. I don't know when this became a thing, and I don't want to get off track, but there are people who, instead of doing that, they just post on social media that they know things. None of that means anything unless you actually go to the police You travel to the police station. You get someone to either give you a ride if you can't get a ride. You walk in and say, I have information about the individual, right? Whatever, whoever the case may be. You travel. Now, what I have found, I don't understand. Who cares what happened? Old news. This actually just happened. So I don't know what to make of that. And I'm trying not to get distracted. Now, this just happened. Old news. Well, the Woonsocket police just put this out 1 hour ago that they are investigating Ryan Goulet. So this is brand new. The investigation is ongoing. And not to get distracted here, but you have someone, who cares what happened, old news. Well, you have a loss of life. I know many of his friends, I've heard from some of the friends of Ryan that are very upset and traumatized by his death, and they want justice for what happened. They want a thorough investigation. And I don't understand. Woonsocket police just investigated this. That's not accurate. No, they just put this out. They are investigating it now. They just investigated this. No, they've just released a statement that it is a current investigation. What do I mean by that? Someone says, hey, would you like to go to lunch? You say, I just ate. Oh, okay. Meaning you're not hungry. They didn't just investigate this. They're currently investigating it. So I'm not sure, and I understand the people that don't understand correct tenses, but I don't. I no. If someone is going to put up a statement, and let's talk about this, Erica. I didn't know that the three people that lost their life, two innocent people on Monday, I didn't realize that that is now considered old news. No, we're still learning a lot about that, Thomas. We're still learning a lot about what happened with the murder suicide and three people then dead. So no, that is not old news. Central Falls is still a very active investigation with Erica. So that's also not old news. And this death, well, that's what but why not check before you send it so you have the proper tense, so we don't have to go through this and I have to again keep explaining things to people. So I know, folks, don't worry. They're not going to drown me out. We're going to stay on. But I want to remind people, many people, you can watch and listen. It couldn't be more current news. I'm not relitigating the 2024 election. I'm not talking about January 6th. So anyone that has information should contact the police. That's what I'm suggesting. And I want to stay on schedule here and go with, because I do have a lot to get into about both Erica, and then also we are learning things about the shooter in Central Falls. So, but I want to be very clear that I think there's certainly lacking of people that know what is the proper thing to do in a situation like this. And the proper thing to do is, if you have information on something, a crime that is being committed, you be a grown-up, be a responsible adult, be a responsible citizen, and you travel to the police station and fill out a report. Yes, they are, Judge. Now, I did want to mention, I know one of the problems with many of these cases because we learned it with the situation with Erica, which is the poor girl that was murdered in Central Falls. And that is, there are many people that have had run ins with the law. This happens all the time. And I've really learned more about this because of doing Road Patrol Live. There are many people that have outstanding warrants. There are people that aren't sure if they have outstanding warrants. So if you have an outstanding warrant or you're not sure, instead of clearing it up, they don't do anything. And we know that with Erica. There were several people that were calling the Central Falls police. And you need to, this is going on and you need to go check this out. And the Central Falls police said, I need you to come in and file a missing persons report. And they hang up. This is the same crowd then saying, I called there 20 times, just like that lady. I lived there 2 years. I lived there. They took my money. I admit it. I lived there for 2 years. That lady. I admit it. I took a dump on the floor in there. I was laying with the cats. I admit that. But why didn't you travel to the police station and file a missing persons report? Because I was calling. They had to block my number. Well, that's where it separates. The cops don't do nothing. Yes. Terrible. So there's her obit, by the way, poor Erica. We do have it posted, a link to it on our website, DePietro.com. I admit it. I lived there 2 years. They took my checks. 2 years you went through that, huh? They took my... All right, folks, this portion of the program... All right, just to put a period on this. The Woonsocket police have announced a suspicious death. Let's let them investigate. I implore you, if you have information, to go contact the Woonsocket police. So instead of just posting on social media, that some people do, by the way, I don't think I'm going to change the behavior or curb the behavior, but I implore you to contact the police with the information you have. Instead of just calling or then posting, these cops don't do nothing. There's a process. I've had to go to the police on people. You know what I do? I travel to the police station and fill out a report or a complaint like a normal person. I speak English. I live in America. I have a vehicle. I travel there. I fill out the complaint. I've had to do that. I did it recently. Police could be more accommodating. They send down the officer in charge to make sure everything's going smoothly. Make sure that we're going to go after someone. But my point is, I'm practicing what I preach. If you have information about a certain crime, did you go to the police station? No, I posted it on Facebook. That's not exactly the same. As a matter of fact, it's in nowhere near the same. These cops don't do nothing. I lived there 2 years. I was lying with them cats. Yeah, we know that. 2 years. Thank you, Jane Rice. It is. Where am I? We have to. I also want to remind people, listen, part of this, the time when many times when we cover stories, we attract individuals that might normally not follow what we do. And not everybody believes in proper grammar. A lot of people do talk to text. We're left to try to translate what they're saying. They have no social graces. They just burst in and just start blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, on the one hand, I do like that they're interested in something that happened and then they want to interact with others. But admittedly, we have to try to bring them along. I can't say much more than that. If you have, it is, if you have information about something that happened, I suggest you take it up and do the responsible thing. I'm not talking to no cop. Well, then if you're not going to talk to the police, I don't know what else to tell you. They don't do nothing. Well, maybe they need more people speaking up. But I am going to talk about the Central Falls situation. I am. Folks, but I want to remind you, Kids Club on the Pike. Remember, Kids Club on the Pike, they're located right on Plainfield Pike off of 295. This is perfect for any type of child celebration. It's safe. It's clean. How about the story? Kid robbed, a 9-year-old robbed at Providence Place Mall because someone said, yeah, let's throw a party for the kids at Dave & Buster's. One child was assaulted. The other one was robbed in the food court. Folks, Kids Club on the Pike is perfect for that. They also do before and after school care, preschool, half and full day program, preschool children 3 through 5. I want to thank Deborah, reached out to me. She didn't know that they have before and after school care, so she contacted them for her grandchild. Kids Club on the Pike, right off of 295, and don't worry, there's not going to be any drag queen doing story hour. Not a Kids Club on the Pike, right in the Cranston-Johnston line, right off of 295 Plainfield Pike. They don't have anybody there that's encouraging young children to change gender. No, not a Kids Club on the Pike. That would be the public school system that we have right now. Kids Club on the Pike. Now, I want to touch on the story that we have. And again, there is the obit now that is posted for Erica. And if you check out, we're going to start to boost more in sometimes, like, I have different platforms that I use. Facebook is a platform, TikTok's a platform, Instagram's a platform, YouTube's a platform, the radio is a platform. But we also have DePietro.com, and I'm very proud of it. I started it in 1999 because of Operation Blood and Oak. And it works perfectly. We may do a little bit of a facelift, maybe a little bit of an upgrade in 2026, possible. But for now, it serves its purpose, which has links to all of our social media. It allows us to break stories. And number one, I know I'm a little bit all over the place here. We're going to come back to, I want to just mention, since we're staying with Central Falls, since we are, or I've decided to. So, excuse me, with Woonsocket. There he is. Okay. Now, if you check out DePietro.com, we have the latest. There he is. He's the shooter. He's the killer. That's who did it, by the way, Monday night. If you don't like that, the people do the same thing with. See, I can't. They say that the Idaho murders don't show Goldberg. With the Luigi, don't show him. Right? O.J. Simpson trial, don't show O.J. 9/11, do not show the planes hitting the tower. It's too upsetting. There are people like that. They always say that. So, but that's who. There's the person, the Woonsocket killer. There he is. Now, I want to clear up something because, and there were people that were mentioning in our chat that he had been on home confinement or an ankle bracelet, this Sean Rivera. Now, what I learned, and again, it is mentioned in the interview with the daughter. So, as you know, in the horrible murder in Woonsocket to start off the week, 2 innocent people lost their lives, and then Sean Rivera, the boyfriend. We interviewed the daughter, who was so courageous, but he shot and killed her mother, Kim, and Donald. And I want to repeat, I've heard just nothing but good things about the two of them. But there were people saying he was on home confined and ankle bracelet. And so there is something there because the daughter, and that's how we're referring to her. I got the nastiest message from someone. How dare you just call her the daughter? She has a name. The least you can do is call her by her name. I know her name. She thanked me for not mentioning her name and just referring to her as the daughter. But when she first met Sean Rivera and started dating him, and again, this is on the website, tvtro.com, he was on home confinement, and she told me that she didn't ask him what was the reason of why he was on home confinement. So, but there's something there. And as I also illustrate, that the police are obviously looking into how did he get that gun. She broke up with him. He just wouldn't take it, face it, deal with it, whatever adjective you want to use, and then snapped and went off, threatened to kill her, and then did kill and shoot and kill her mother and Donald. And I want to again repeat to people, I know people are hurting about this. We have it. Kim's, the daughter here is just so fantastic with, I just give her so much, she has so much courage for, this is going to be a long road. This is not easy. And I know there is, by the way, going to be a candlelight vigil for the victims. And we will promote and pump when that is going to be. Yes, she doesn't want anyone to know her name, which we will. And I thank you, Janet. I respect that, and I am respecting it. But what I don't need are then these people acting as though, like, how dare you not mention her name? Again, folks, I know maybe there's an element of why do you even mention these people? All right, I want to get to so the latest, though, we do have a lot. We have the interview with the daughter, and then we also have new details, and I'm learning more new details, because it is going to come down to how did he obtain that weapon? She told me that she was shocked that he had a gun, and then he put a gun to her face and told her that, it's terrible, but that he was going to kill her. And then I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. There he is, but he killed her mother. He killed her stepdad, and then he took his own life. So it's just tragic. And that is, so you have 2 active investigations in Woonsocket. And by the way, Woonsocket also had an arrest, more students arrested at the high school, again, girls this time, for fighting. I believe Woonsocket need to step up, and they need to, some people aren't going to like this, but they need to make an example out of somebody. This can't go on. The school superintendent, this whole notion that I've talked about, these people, and they've been saying, always be leery of someone that says, if anyone has any suggestions on what we should do about this, I find that to be a complete failure of leadership. These people, they have do you have any idea how much these public schools, do you know at one time, it could still be the case, in the city of Warwick, I don't know what the formula is in Woonsocket, but in the city of Warwick, the schools took 70 cents of every dollar. Every dollar that came in for taxes, 70 cents went to the schools. And Warwick has complete underperforming schools. Warwick, their school system, they blow through money. Totally. So many, Justin and I talk about that. Millions. I'm sure Woonsocket I don't know how much do the Woonsocket schools take? That quote, if anyone has any suggestions of what we should do you think these people spend millions and no one can get an education because they don't know what to do about the fighting and arresting students? As I mentioned in the past, you contact Baltimore, you contact Chicago, you contact Hartford, you contact Roxbury, you contact other school districts, Philadelphia, that have had difficult students. You don't say, if anyone has any suggestions of what we should do. How embarrassing. You're supposed to be in a position of leadership. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's nothing worse than Smithfield. That superintendent, I don't know what to make of that. And I know there are people telling me, there's the town council's out to get her. Well, she, served herself up, the superintendent in Smithfield, on a silver platter. Like I said, you sit silent as Congressman Gabe Amo and these Jewish organizations and Governor McGreed and Fonte Green are all putting out statements. Anti-Semitism won't be allowed. And then the superintendent is silent like there, not saying a word that there was no evidence of any anti-Semitism. Listen, I'll say this about the superintendent. I don't know this woman. She could be a very nice woman. She could be fantastic. She could be, I don't know anything about her. But I'll tell you what I do know is she shouldn't be in a position of authority. I mean, I don't care. Let me be crystal clear here. I don't care what type of legal advice you got. You just clear the decks, just so we're all clear. You're the superintendent of Smithfield. You contact the education commissioner, Fonte Green, saying, hold on. Before you guys issue any type of statement, just so we're all on the same page, there's no evidence there was any anti-Semitism the way they were giving this kid a hard time. Zero. That's why we let them back to play. Superintendent, silent. Principal, silent. Football coach, silent. Athletic director, silent. What is this? Just beyond the pale. Unimaginable. Yeah, just at what point did you think it was going to be an opportune time to alert everyone that they were just doing it because it was a freshman on the football team? After how many press conferences with the Jewish organization were you thinking that you were going to step up and say, just so everybody knows, there was no mention of anything? How do you sit on that information? At what point what were you waiting for? I don't know that person, this superintendent. She's on paid leave. I don't know what to tell you. Either you got really bad legal advice or you shouldn't be there. Neither one is good. I want to remind you folks about Watson Materials. Call them. Watson Materials. They carry the largest selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island. It's Watson Materials. Call Sean. Request a quote, 401-885-0600. Landscape lighting, pavers, retaining walls, natural stone, cobblestone. Watson Materials, the most complete selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island. All right, I want to get to the situation in Central Falls. I do. Regarding Erica, we have new information. I have very good sources on this story, by the way. Very good sources. Now, I'll also say this about CF and this. You know what? And I'll mention a bunch of these stories. As I've said, this program, the web, our social media, these live do. It's not for everybody. It's not. It's not for everyone. So there are some people. I don't even get upset. Go watch the package that Channel 10 puts together, that's 60 seconds. And then they explain, there's no new details. They just tell you, go do that. This is like advanced. This is for people that already know the story. That's what this is. Okay. So now those of you who have been following the coverage, look at that. That's Erica. That is Erica Bader. Totally malnourished. We had one of the neighbors on that saw her going through the dumpster. And there it is. There's the dumpster. Some person actually said, well, I don't see anyone climb. I didn't say that we had a photo of her climbing in the dumpster. That's the dumpster that she was going into. So if you read, for those who read, maybe people overestimate that. For those who are literate, I should say, if you read DePietro.com, this is one of the worst stories that I have ever covered. And I know a number of her friends have said this. And I'm learning more about the path that got her here. Now, on another platform, someone said, well, that's not a very clear photo. Can't you? Listen, the people that lived there were doing TikToks. People were able to pick it up. That's her in the background folding laundry like a servant. But from what I understand, she was so thin when they found her body. A lot of her bones were broken. The people, that neighbor, they weren't exaggerating. The neighbor that saw her going through the dumpster, looking for food, for scraps. She was beaten. Again, this is all on DePietro.com. If you are illiterate, find a friend who could read it to you. But we have it listed. It's very disturbing. And the sources on this are just completely solid. But I mean, you're talking, and you know what else? Someone else put up a very good point. Do you notice the mayor of Central Falls has said nothing about this? The friends I call on, if you were a friend of Erica and you said you were calling the police, you should be calling the mayor of Central Falls. As someone, and it was through one of the comments pointed out, the mayor of Central Falls, she was crying when that young girl was shot and killed. Do you remember the kids were playing with the gun before school? The gun went off and shot and killed that young girl. Mayor Rivera was crying over that. She hasn't said a word about Erica, but it is starting to sound that Erica's body started actually not functioning because she was so malnourished. And what happens when you're malnourished? You get sick easily, your kidneys, various things start shutting down. They would beat her if they found that she would take the food from the dogs or the cats. That's how demented these people were. It is true. It is true that they wouldn't. I also just want to caution people that I'm running an adult program. So if this is uncomfortable to people, I'm not offended if you either tune out on the radio, or I'm not going to use any foul language, but this is very troubling. This is news for adults. This is not news for everyone. Some people go, I actually got a message from someone. Enough of all this bad news. You should post some happy things. That's not the brand. That's not what we're doing. But it is true. She was in a diaper. They wouldn't let her use the bathroom. They would not let her use the bathroom. They would beat her if they found her, and her punishment was they wouldn't feed her. They took her checks, but Erica was 5'9", and when they found her, basically, under 85 pounds. That is rail thin. That, from what she looked like after those people got done with her, she was also, again, that's a photo of who she was. And then, you already saw what they turned her into. But now I have someone I'm working on, a source that, because of my platforms and I've been doing this, there are a lot of different types of people that I've communicated with over the years. One is that I affectionately Some people won't get it. I affectionately call him Meth Mouth, but he is someone that I have been in touch with for a very long time. He chooses to live on the street. He's a grown man. He chooses to live on the street for whatever reason. And he used to get a radio and listen. I've met him. He sends me messages. I won't give his name. He believes he can hook me up with, he knows a guy, so to speak, but they would cruise into Kennedy Plaza and want drugs. This is what I was told, the people at the apartment. And, the whole expression of like, who's holding? And they would trade her out. Okay, somebody has pick a drug, oxy, maybe weed, maybe not, maybe. I know some people don't get this. There are some people that openly use fentanyl. They use it in small doses, but they smoke it and they snort it and everything else. It's not all lethal, is my point. There are people that they use fentanyl. I mean, I heard from this guy, that his girlfriend got hooked on fentanyl. She loved fentanyl. She used it all the time. She'd buy it. She'd use it in very, really, really small doses. What do you think eventually happens? But they would trade out poor Erica of, we want whatever it may be. We're looking for meth. We're looking for blow, and would trade her out. Like, hey, if you come back to our apartment in Central Falls, you can have your way with her. Look at this young white girl we got. But then exchange, we want the drugs. So I won't say his real name is Eddie, but he's pretty confident that he's got a guy his friend had the drugs. So the two of them went. I think he had sex with some young girl at the Central Falls apartment. He's not positive it was Erica, but it could have been. Do you remember the neighbor was mentioning that other girl with the fake eye and the long hair that she heard she ended up in New York? So it sounds like this potentially now was a scam that these people, I don't know if scam's the right word, but this is how these people were operating. And they were using young females as a form of barter, so to speak, of currency for drugs and money and selling them out and all this other stuff. I mean, that's the way it sounds. Now, I want to caution you. You're not going to read about this in the Providence Journal. You're not going to read about this in nothing but like the Valley Breeze. These people. I just went on the Channel 6 website, and I don't see. You're not going to see anything about this. As I said, Channel 12 was saying, we don't know if all 40 animals were in Erica's room at the apartment, as if she had her own. This is Erica's room. This is her room. She's the only one that gets to live there. She's decided to keep all these animals. No, she's sleeping on the floor in a diaper. And then when they would leave to go to Kennedy Plaza, and let's just say not bringing back any type of people that you'd want anything to do with, she would then go and rummage in the dumpster to try to get some scraps. So I also think if you're watching, you're going to see 6 faces on the screen. The one to the bottom right seems to prefer women. From what I have gathered, she was the enforcer. She has faced certain charges where they said, well, she was Erica's roommate, whatever that means. But that's what I have heard. Believe it or not, I've heard the women were the enforcers on her. And they were the ones, because I know there were obviously men in the apartment as well. But it's just such a horrid existence. And it as I've also mentioned, I a couple things about this. Number one, it is sick. We could not. Um, I don't know. You're adults. I'm not doing anything gory. I'm not saying any inappropriate language. I am talking a little bit vaguely in certain tones. I hope that you think you can follow. I will warn you that this story is actually, believe it or not, but going to get worse. It's going to get worse. When you have people, when there are drugs involved and no one is working, and this goes on day and nights, you heard the neighbor, Crystal, this would be every night till 4 or 5 in the morning. They start to come up with some pretty twisted ways for entertainment. And it's, believe it or not, it's actually going to get worse. I'm waiting to confirm with this friend of Meth Mouth, but he believes he witnessed something that I'm going to write about, but I'm not prepared to speak about. But there, just keep in mind, just remember that there were, I don't know, but there were 6 dogs in the apartment. There were 6 dogs in the apartment, and some things were done with some of these animals for entertainment of the group. You're talking about the real, just absolute drag society is what you're talking about. You're talking about, subhuman behavior in essence with what was going on. But I believe, I think if you're a friend of Erica, or really anyone, there's some real hard questions to me about that mayor of Central Falls. And how come she's not crying about this story? She cried about the other girl. To think that poor Erica, can you imagine trying to sleep on a floor with 34 cats and 6 dogs, and you're laying on the floor in a diaper? And they would beat you if they found you stealing food from the animals. Um, I don't even want to get into it. We're going to talk tomorrow. I also just want to caution people. This is a tough case. The Central Falls story, it's a really tough case. I'll say this. I don't know if there's going to be murder charges here. I don't. And I say that, let me just be very clear. I say that as someone who, that's right, 6 dogs, not counting the women. I've covered over 25 trials. I've spent a lot of time. I talked to a lot of attorneys. That's what I do off air. I'm not. This is a tough case, and you know what? The other thing about this crew is they're not exactly strangers to the legal system. Let me say this about the um, the whole business of the cats, as someone had mentioned, that is generally a trademark for someone who is insane. I mean, a normal person, you wouldn't live in an apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment with 1 bathroom. A normal person, you wouldn't. I don't care. Someone sent me a message. Well, maybe she was a cat lover. No, that there's something mentally. You're mentally deranged by that. Now, I do know the pet urine could also get rid of the smell if they were like cooking meth or smoking crack or things like that. The pet urine so strong, the smell, the odor is what it is, could wipe that away. But that is not the behavior of a normal person. So now you're talking about people who are, and I'm not saying insane to try to give them a defense, but this is a tough case because we don't know of any witness. And you have all these people, 6 people, and if the 6 of them are saying there was a fight and she hit her and she accidentally fell and blah blah blah, this I just, again, I think I have a lot of confidence in the Central Falls police and the detectives, and they're gonna do the best they can. But I think people should be realistic. This is a difficult case. because the 6 people, by the way, they are charged. Can you even, like, let's sit down and have breakfast? Come on in. What can I make you? What's for dinner? What's for lunch? Hey, you owe us rent. These people, when the police, the Central Falls police showed up at their apartment, they knew exactly what was involved with the well-being check. They were answering questions. That's where our legal expert, Stephanie Murphy, was so good that, you know, they're not strangers to the law. This crew, they knew exactly. Answer the questions. Don't pull an attitude. She's not here. Police didn't have a search warrant. No one went and filled out a missing persons report. I think the one on the far right in that photo, see her on the far right? I think she was the enforcer. She's the one that caught the extra charges. Make no mistake about it. I agree with so many of you that they're all responsible. But right now, they're all being charged with not reporting a death. And I think the one on the end, she has all those TikToks of like that she's made with the woman that's next to her carrying the child. A child. Keep in mind, they had children in that apartment. They had children in that apartment. Erica's job was to try to keep that apartment clean. But they had children there. Drug use. House of Horrors. But that one on the right, she's the one that, I think she was the enforcer. I could see where you'd be, afraid of her. She has some TikToks where she's in love with the woman that's on her end. They were all mixed up with each other. That's the two that got married where he's standing in the back, Josh and Liz. And then those two got married. That was the wedding they had outside. And then this goon to the left. Now, the two guys on the end, they were trying to be professional wrestlers. And someone that was affiliated with it told me they would always show up wearing the same clothes. Not same outfits, same clothes. Meaning they saw them on a Wednesday and the following Wednesday, you know why they're wearing the same clothes? Because they never changed out of those clothes. They had not showered or anything. That was the situation of the people in Central Falls. If you're listening to the radio, stay tuned for the 2:00 news. Everybody else, I'm going to stay just for a couple extra moments. We're going to go overtime here with our live stream. And okay. And I just want to be very clear. The 6 people, they all made bail, I believe. Liz is a pedophile. She lost her 2 oldest kids, horrible things. I heard about that, Heather. I heard about that. That's right. Pedophile. Ugh. So Josh is exactly right. And folks, again, the radio continues. My radio show is off for the day. But if you go to the website, Jane, DePietro.com, you can get all of that. But there's another show that they run. They're just kind enough. Absolutely not, Janet. Actually, that's a double negative. It should be, I wouldn't eat anything in that house. No offense. They all made bail, I believe. They were all out on bail. She was not to be allowed to have pets, animal pets. I don't know what that means. Guys, she was not allowed to be allowed to. I appreciate all the comments. I would just suggest many of you just kind of proofread before you. We find this a lot. I'm trying to figure out. She was not to be allowed to have animal pets. You don't need the not. It would be she. No, you don't need the to be. She was not allowed to have animal. I don't know if you need to put the word animal. What other pets are there? She's just not allowed to have pets. A bad smell. Janet, the neighbor said that when they would open the window, you could smell it outside. So I know, Cindy. Look at that floor. It's just so rotten. Poor Erica living like that. Look at that, Cindy. Oh, my God. Well, Erica was trying to keep it clean. It is. And nothing from the nope, they never ran out of soap or toothpaste. Listen, there was no one brushing their teeth. There was no one, I'm going to hop in and take a quick shower. I mean, I shower at least twice a day. Not everyone followed that. That's what I heard, that when they, yes, that's right. Raven has info. Yep. They are Raven. It is. I just don't want, I'm not trying to scare people off. I'm really not. I know. That's right. Bill is exactly right. Thank you for the stars. So I don't know how much I have to be cautious, because I have heard, and it's so twisted, but I may publish it but not talk about it, because not to go on and on about it, but I have heard, there will be no charges. Well, that maybe, possibly animal cruelty, maybe, could be. I mean, listen, I know they'd like to charge them. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, but you can't. You're not talking about a house. You're not talking about a yard. You're talking about a 2-bedroom apartment. Um, I have to decide, because I don't want. It's so disturbing, but I want you to think there's 6 dogs, and you have someone that they consider. I mean, it's basically they didn't even value. They had these young girls. Now, I don't know about the girl from New York, but you had, Erica, at least, and maybe the other girl. You have a bunch of meth heads and drug addicts, and they run out of things to do. So I don't know if there's pictures of video, but I have heard that they when it would hit 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, and they're all bored, it would then turn to, they were doing sexual things with the animals. So it's one thing to take an adult sex toy and um, do something to an animal, but I heard it went beyond that. And I heard that the women, again, I have to see, here's the thing. In order to get this, I have to meet with the people, and I'm not exactly in a hurry to meet with the people that were witnessing a lot of this. But from what I understand, that the women would hold down some of these young girls, and not only would some of the Kennedy Plaza crowd have their way with them, but they would interchange them with some of the animals, meaning, and it sounds so twisted, but that the women were holding down. I don't know who it was. Maybe it was Erica. Maybe it was just someone else. But hold them down, and then they would actually. I mean, it's so frightening. It is bestiality for the dog to then be having sex with the girl and so forth. And then, I don't know if then the girls are passed out, or they're just held down, or they're so drugged up. But the rest of them sitting around with their crew laughing and watching, and it's just so, I know, so twisted. I did hear that, Josh. Yes, I did hear that. Yep. And when I first heard that, I didn't know what to make of it, but I'm hearing that this was after midnight entertainment for this crowd. But they also had the dog, and I don't even I know they can't. I don't even like thinking about it. You don't think of people doing things like that, but these are the types of people that would do something like that. So, all right. Well, folks, listen, it's very disturbing. Again, we do have Erica's obit up on the website, depetro.com. Now, just again, for all the new people, they are Kristen Perry. They're just terror. They're rotten. But I also want to warn you folks, this is a tough case. This is not an easy murder investigation. I think it comes down, I mean, I believe this will end up being that one of them may take the weight of the case into a manslaughter. But it's very possible, maybe on conspiracy charges, but this really seems, I know, Cindy, this really seems that this, I'm just telling you right now, for those that want to deal in reality, because I see some people saying they should get the death penalty, but I know that's the thing, Jane. They're really not. And I'll admit, when I was hearing some of this stuff, I actually didn't believe it because it sounded so twisted. It was very. I don't think I knew anyone. Like, I don't know anyone that would ever be involved in something like that. But these are the types of people who'd be involved with something like that. But this is not an easy. This is not a layup. This is not. This is a tough. This is a tough case because to prove homicide, you have to prove this person did this act and that caused it, and that's not always easy to prove. So I think it'd be plea bargain down, probably to like a manslaughter, probably some kind of a death resulting negligence, maybe something like that. I mean, they're going to do the best they can, but this is a tough one. And I repeat, I would also think that somebody would roll, but you don't know. Like, they're so whacked. I've already heard that the one on the end, that they can convince her to do anything, so she'd be willing to do the time. They call it, they catch the weight of it, so she's willing to take the brunt of the weight, the time on it. So I'm not going to start to guess of how much they'd get, but the rest of them, other than negligence, death resulting, something like that, it's not going to be what people think. It is not. No way. No, because you have to prove this person did that in order to, unless you get them on conspiracy. But it's a much more difficult case. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know. That is exactly right, Wendy. And she had such nice friends. Erica, she did. I feel terrible like many of you. No, you can't say that. They could say she didn't eat. They could say because of the drugs she didn't want to eat. I'll say this: premeditated murder with the abuse and the weight loss. I'll just say this, Jane, and I'm not trying to shut it down. I'm not. But you got to find, I don't know of a case that they've been successful on something like that. Have any of her relatives come forward? Well, yeah, the stepmother and the father were at the police station, of all places, protesting. I'll say this: they wanted nothing to do with her. The stepfather and the mother, the father and the stepmother, they wanted nothing to do with Erica. Zero. Did not care. Don't bother us. Her friends were concerned. They should have gone and filed a missing persons report. They did not. That would have, changed a lot. No one seemed to know what to do. So, but now it sure sounds as though some of the family that they, her obit, it's on the website, that I think some of the family now, they see this now as a potential money grab. That I heard. That's what I heard. I heard Saturday night, the stepmother, who they wanted nothing to do with Erica, that she's already like, we're going to go after these police. We're going to get money out of this. But they did nothing to help her. I'll say this: think how bad it was. Think how bad Erica's life was, that she had to choose between living with the father and the stepmother. She chose these people. That gives you insight. That's how bad was it? She chose them. She chose to live with these people, at least initially. And then I don't think she realized that they weren't going to let her leave. But her death notice, her obituary is Erica Lynn Bader, 24, passed away, daughter of Jana, sister of Joseph Oakes. Yeah, she has the brothers, Joe and Jacob. Leaves her dad, cousin Sheila. Sheila was really, really nice to Erica. I know that, along with Sheila's children and grandchildren. They tried. Youthful spirit, love music, love Stitch and Lilo, but puts new meaning to, I know, that's exactly right. I am aware of that. I did hear about that. Yeah. Well, why don't you? It's not as easy as you think. I like these people that give direction. I am aware of that. I know. You're right. I couldn't follow. Stepmother weren't even making any sense. No, no, none. Imagine that. Now she's yelling, the stepmother yelling at, yeah, yelling at the police. Terrible. All right, folks, we'll see. We'll see about Road Patrol Live later. I don't know. Because I am running down this story. It takes up a lot of time. But thank you, everybody.